Graveyards, eh? Well, the shortest distance between Mary Culhane's house and the town was through the graveyard. And one afternoon, not long before dinner, her father was coming back from town when he got tired walking through the graveyard, and he put down his blackthorn walking stick and sat down beside a freshly dug grave. Took a little nap, and when he woke up and went home, he realized he had forgotten his walking stick. And as he sat through dinner, he looked a bit depressed. And his wife looked at him and realized something was amiss, and she asked him, he said, "Well, I'm afraid I've left my walking stick in the graveyard, and it was a fine shillelagh it was, and someone's bound to steal it if they come along on it tonight." Well, now all the children around the table looked down at their toes and thought about going into the graveyard to look for that walking stick, and they were silent, except for Mary. She stood up and she said, "Father, I will go and fetch your walking stick." She went to the wall, took her kerchief off the hook, and tied it around her hair, and off she went. Into the graveyard, through the gate, and along the path to the fresh dug grave. And sure enough, there was her father's walking stick right beside the grave. She reached down to grab it when all of a sudden a voice rang out, "Leave the blackthorn alone, Mary Culhane, and help me out of this hole." All of a sudden, she was paralyzed. She couldn't do anything. "Help me out of the grave, Mary Culhane." The next thing she knew, her hands were in the grave. The cover had come off a coffin, and a hand had attached itself to her arm and was pulling itself up and out of the grave. It hopped up on her back and said, "Walk on, Mary Culhane, walk on." He pointed toward the town, and Mary walked on all right, slowly and with trouble because it was heavy. And he says, "Walk on, Mary Culhane." They came into the town, and they stopped at the first house because he told her to. "Walk up to the doorway, Mary Culhane." They got to the front steps, and the corpse went, "Ooh, no, 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 I smell holy water. Move on, Mary Culhane, this one won't do." And they went on to the next house and up the next walkway. When they got to the front steps, the corpse said, "No, no, Mary Culhane, there's holy water here too. Carry on." They came to the next house, and up the stairs they went. "No holy water here, Mary Culhane. Let's go in." Inside they went, and he ordered her to sit him down on a chair in the kitchen. "Now, Mary Culhane, I'm hungry and I'm thirsty. Fix me some food." Mary looked around. There was a can of oats, so she started making some porridge. When she stirred it, and she dished out a bowl of porridge for the corpse, who started to gobble it down in a disgusting, hungry way. Then he said, "I need something to drink too, Mary Culhane." "There's nothing to drink here except foot water in the bucket by the door and dishwater." "What? Nothing for me to drink?" "Fetch me a bowl and a knife, Mary Culhane." She went and got him a bowl down from the cupboard and a knife. "Put me back up on your back, Mary Culhane. Take me upstairs to the bedroom." Upstairs they went. They went into the front room where the family's 3 little boys were sleeping. The corpse got off her back and went up to the bed. And each one of those boys, he took a finger and slashed it with the knife and drained all the blood out into the bowl until they were pale and cold and lifeless. Take me back downstairs. They didn't leave me anything to drink. I'll have their blood. Down they went to the kitchen. The corpse took another bowl and more of the oatmeal, and they split it between two bowls and mixed in the blood. Yeah, mixed it all up with blood and handed one bowl to Mary, and he says, "Now, Mary Culhane, you'll join me in this feast." Mary was quite disgusted. Then she remembered her kerchief. She pulled it down around her neck and pretended to shovel that oatmeal into her mouth, but she let it slide down the kerchief. And when the corpse had finished all his, he said, "Are you finished now, Mary Culhane?" Yes, she was finished. "Then wash the dishes." She took the two bowls over to the sink and washed them. And she knew she was going to have to get back up on that corpse's back one way or another. She didn't want him to smell the blood on the kerchief. So she quickly took it off, rolled it up, and shoved it into the cupboard in a little ball when her back was turned. When she came back, the corpse said, "Now, Mary Culhane, take me back to where I was." They started down the pathway toward the graveyard. He was clinging to her back, cold and heavy, one arm around her neck and the other one pointing ahead. "Walk on, Mary Culhane, walk on." And then Mary got really brave. "Is there anything that would bring those boys back to life?" "Oh, yes, there is, Mary Culhane, but you and I have eaten it. One taste of that blood and oatmeal mixed would bring them back to life, but there's no chance of that now, is there? Walk on, Mary Culhane." Now they walked past a field, and in the field were 3 piles of rocks. "Nobody knows this, Mary Culhane, but underneath those piles of rocks, there is gold. But only the dead know that." Well, that made Mary Culhane a bit worried because, after all, she wasn't dead. They walked on. The graveyard was getting closer, and Mary thought she heard a rooster crow. "That's not a rooster, Mary Culhane. That's a hooty owl. Walk on." The graveyard was getting closer. They were through the gate and on the path. And once again, Mary listened. She was sure she heard it. "That's not a rooster either, Mary Culhane. That's a little lamb bleating for its mother. Walk on." They got to the edge of the gravesite, and the corpse said, "Now it's into the grave with me you'll go, Mary Culhane." He began to pull at her leg and arm. And just then, for the 3rd time, the cock crowed. The sun began to rise, and the corpse fell dead in the grave. Mary hammered the lid back on, grabbed her father's stick, ran home, put the walking stick up by the hearth, and went to bed. She was awakened by her mother shaking her in the morning. "Get up, lazy girl, get up, come on. Don't you know that our neighbor's 3 sons have died in the night, and we've all got to go to the wake?" "Oh, Mother, I'm so ill." Her mother looked at her. She does look pale. She looks as pale as the sheet." "Very well, come when you can, Mary Culhane." She slept for a couple more hours, and then she headed down the road to the neighbor's house, down the road into the town. You know the route. When she got there, people were gathered in the front parlor. talking and commiserating. Mary walked in. She came right up to where the parents were, and she said to them, "You don't need to be upset." "What do you mean, don't need to be upset? Our 3 sons are dead, and you're telling us we shouldn't be upset? You were cruel." "What would you give," asked Mary, "if somebody could bring your sons back to life again?" "What a cruel joke you suggest." "I'm serious," said Mary. "What would you give? Would you give that field out there with the piles of stones?" "No one can bring the dead back to life, but yes, sure, we'd give you the field." "Could I have that in writing?" asked Mary. They thought she was totally daft, but they wrote it down. Then she ordered them all to leave the house. She went upstairs after she'd been to the kitchen, collected the kerchief with the bloody oatmeal in it, went into the bedroom with a spoon she'd taken, and began to feed a little bit of that horrible mixture to each one of those boys. And with the first bit on their mouths, the bodies warmed up. With the second, color came back into their cheeks. And with the third, breath came into their lungs, and they were hale and hearty. Mary went downstairs, hauled all the people back into the house, and said to the family, "Now go to the stairs and call your boys down by name." They did, and down came the boys, looking just like they had before. Well, the upshot of that was Mary got that land, and eventually she dug up some of the gold and built a nice house where she could keep her family in style. And she lived happily with her friends and relations all the days of her life. But she always made sure to have a goodly supply of holy water on hand. And she never again cooked porridge in her life.